Hello, everyone. Lorianne Minoff from Broward County. I'm here with 2008 past state president for the Women's Council of Realtors, Florida, Rosemary Mahoney. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
I am delighted to be here and share.
Excellent. So wanted to just get started with getting right into a brief introduction about yourself so we can get to know you better.
Okay. Well, I moved to Florida from Connecticut in 1984 with my three daughters. Um, and at the time, I had used a headhunter to find a job here comparable to what I did in New York. And lo and behold, they lied basically all the way through to right after the closing on my home here. So little time of panic. And then I had to, pull up the panties, decide what I was going to do.
Mhm.
I went into banking because I had a finance background, worked in banking for 4 years and kind of jumped around from actually started on the teller line because you have to start somewhere,
Mhm.
and went into savings, CDs, and went to the loan department where I said, aha, okay, I'm processing these loans and I can see on the closing statement people that are making some good money. And so let me check this out. So that's how I segued right into this career and have enjoyed it ever since. So that was almost 34 years ago that I started in real estate.
Excellent. So, as a past state president for Women's Council in Florida, what major contributions would you say you made to the organization during your tenure?
Well, I'd like to think I'm a good listener and mentor to people. Uh, I know Sherry talked about it and a few others talked about what a dream team we had, and we did. I think it's kind of like Camelot. It was a wonderful time in the organization, a wonderful time for our team. We're still so close. We still get together. We try to get together once a year, but of course we get together at the meetings when we can.
Mhm.
But uh, that aside, I mean, on the outside of Dream Team, and it really was during those years. But getting to that point, there was some heartache. My very, very best friend in the council was on the line. I was running for the line, and that year they chose to take her off the line and put me on.
Wow.
And that was an all-night session with the leadership, and it was Vicki McPhee, who is a brilliant woman, broker, and she is now traveling and somewhat retired, I think, but gave great contributions to the organization. But getting past that, that was one of those moments where you're like, oh no, like now what do I do? And everybody encouraged me, just keep moving on, keep moving on. And I always said, another wonderful person in the organization was Jerry Kenyon. And we were all running for DVP at one point, and Jerry said, as long as it's fun, I'll keep on doing this. And I was like, now there is a good attitude. As long as it's fun, we'll keep on doing this. And, not that it's all fun, but if you're stressing or you're not following your passion in any organization, I think that's when things get difficult and you're not able to give your best. So I stuck with that pretty much the rest of my time in leadership, and still today, because I'm very involved in the local association and the state association.
I could not agree more. That is so, so true. That just, it needs to have that passion and it needs to still sing to you. And I kind of even feel any of the organizations, even before, I feel like COVID kind of did that for me as well, where I started to reevaluate a lot of the nonprofit organizations maybe that I had been so involved in the community. And it's not as if I still didn't care, but I didn't have the same, it wasn't singing to me in the same way. So I still financially maybe support them, but I've whittled down the amount of, I guess you would say, time. I was really spending like sweat equity, I guess you'd say, like doing some of these things with all these different organizations. But I couldn't agree more. And I kind of feel like it just helps you focus on the real things that you feel really passionate about that you want to continue with.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Um, so, as far as contribution, I think that was where the question was
Right.
going. 2008, so not so much different than where we are today. Things have changed in our marketplace. Everybody was pretty much a panic. I will say I probably had blinders on for the first, half of 2007, because we were not quite seeing it. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh boy, okay, we're going to be riding a roller coaster here. So that fun factor, that actually became a little bit more important. We we had a lot of fun in 2008. We delivered a lot of um, short sale foreclosure classes, but we also had fun. We used the energy bus as our theme for the retreat that year for leadership. And that was a great guide actually through that whole 2008, 2009, 2010 process. So it tied into what everybody needed to do. And then the other underlying theme, which is kind of funny, is Pollyanna, which, because I've always said I play the glad game. I always try to find the silver lining, try to find the good in what's happening. And so we stressed that, yeah, you're slow, things are tough, but this is the time, just like the short sale foreclosure classes. This is the time to learn.
Right.
It's giving you the time to step up and be ready, because real estate is cyclical. It'll come back. And if you take this time to learn and be prepared, you'll be hitting the ground with your roller skates.
So true. So true. So were there any other significant, obviously you touched a little bit on the difficult time of 2008, but any significant initiatives that perhaps you launched during your presidency? Classes, I guess, were the important part of education. But any of these that you still believe had the most lasting impact in the state in terms of success?
Well, I do think grabbing onto that short sale foreclosure class, we delivered them all over the state, and it was also an income producer for the what was then chapters, an income producer for the state. Uh, a lot of the business partners embrace that, so we're willing to sponsor with that. So it was taking that opportunity, what was needed at the time, seeing that. And it wasn't just me, obviously it was the entire team, um, and seeing that opportunity, grabbing it and running with it for that year. And I think that did have a lasting impact because our members were so prepared. We also had Jim DeLizia come in. I don't know if he's still active on the national level as far as a trainer, but he came in to work on business plan, forward, looking forward past this blip in the radar. What is your business plan going to be coming out of it? And so we try to deliver the right tools for the right time.
I love it. So how would you describe your overall leadership style, and how do you think that maybe it differed from some of your predecessors at the state level?
Mm, I don't know. I guess everybody has their own style. Um, I'm actually I'm actually a shy person. I'm actually pretty quiet in normal circumstances. So unfortunately, some people read that as being aloof. So that was something I had to kind of get over, uh, and make sure I was greeting people and not being shy, which sounds funny when you're in a leadership position. But as far as my style, like I said, it's just listening to your heart and listening to people. I always used to take the phrase, to lead is really to follow. because you need to listen to the membership, whether you're on a board or whether you're an organization or even in your family. You have to listen to what the needs and wants are in order to lead them where they want to go. And sometimes lead them where they don't want to go. But sometimes seeing what is necessary to get them to the goal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So well, we've talked about the challenges already. Did you face any during your presidency, and how did you address them? I mean, you've kind of touched on this a little bit, but anything else that you maybe want to elaborate on?
I can share one kind of now funny story, then not so much. So in the fall of 2007, we had the leadership retreat in Punta Gorda, and at my association. Like I said, we used the energy bus as our theme for that. And every district had to take a section from the energy bus and deliver it, which was quite hysterical. It was fun. But the news came. I mean, we had newspaper coverage, we had television coverage. It was awesome. I was so excited about that. And the news came, and I am Rosemary, and I had not gone to spokesperson training as of yet. And they were interviewing me, and I was all excited about, the retreat, and that there are people here from all over the state, and this is what they're learning, and this is our goals for the year, and all of that. And they wanted to touch me about the market. And so we touched on the market a little bit. And I said, well, sometimes it rains, sometimes it pours, and sometimes the sun is out. And it's, real estate is much like weather. It will change and it will come back.
So true.
They took that phrase. And the next day, or it was actually that evening, turn on the news, all excited, getting to see us on the news. And they showed real estate signs everywhere and the pouring rain. And the quote was, sometimes it rains, sometimes it pours. Yeah, that was it. That's what they took out of that whole thing.
It was brilliant.
Yes. And there's no retracting it when it's on
Right.
TV. There's not a whole lot you can do about it. So, yeah, measure your words very carefully when talking to the press was the lesson out of that. But, they went where they wanted to go with that. So, yeah, that's a funny little story about the challenge. It was definitely a challenge, because then I was out a lot of fires after that.
I love it. And a quick plug to Florida Realtors spokesperson training. If you haven't done it, it's a definite. And it's so eye-opening. I loved it. I took it twice.
Yeah. And we take our local leadership group. So I'll plug into any of the other associations. We take them to the Florida Real Estate Commission, and we take them to Florida Realtors for a mini spokesperson class. And it's about 2 hours, and it's absolutely awesome. And so they get an introduction to the spokesperson class.
Oh, I love it. That's exciting. And if you haven't watched a FREC hearing, highly recommend, even if you can't make it, to log in and watch them. It is eye-opening, to say the least. It puts a lot of things into perspective.
Oh yeah.
Let's just put it that way. I don't want to, it's spoiler alert. I don't want to give away too much, but highly recommend next time, anyone who has some time to plug in and watch it virtually.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes it can be like mind blowing what the answers people give. Yes.
Great stuff. So what was your vision for the future of the council within the state then? And have you seen it play out today in terms of influencing current programs, policies, and priorities?
I love this question. So, having come into the fold, I want to say it was 1996, 95 or 96 was my first meeting. I only went to help decorate. I didn't intend to do anything dramatic at all. But at that time, it was leadership, 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 leadership. That's what we're about. That's what we do. Then we had that shift. And I know that hindsight, everybody knows it kind of hurt the association, the organization. I mean, uh, because we kind of lost our way there for a little bit.
Yeah.
I think we're still recovering. I think I still, even though we have leaders made here, I think that we're still trying to deliver other segments and other education. And I think that we're getting there. But, in the meantime, when we changed, then other things started to step in. Local associations created leadership uh, organizations, and state did, and national did. And really, I think that was kind of to fill in that gap because we were delivering it and then stopped. So I think we need to come back to that, focus on that, because I do think, I just look at the state organization and I look at the national organization and I look at my local association and how many women's council presidents serve as president or at the very least served on the board. And we definitely do the job. I think we need to own it even more. I think we really need to own who we are, that we are leadership cultivators.
Ooh, I love that. Leadership cultivator. I want to write it down. I love it. I love it. That's going to be a new hashtag.
Yeah.
But so this segues nicely into the next question about mentorship. And obviously it plays a huge part in leadership. So what impact do you believe your personal mentorship has played out on council's members within Florida, fostering growth and development?
I like to think that there are a lot of people who I know there are a lot of people that I've tapped on the shoulder and said, have you thought about, I always have the talk about passion, look at the different things that you can be involved in and follow your passion. Get involved in other aspects. So I mentor, expand your horizons, not just Women's Council, your state organization, your national organization, RPAC, any of those other things. I really, for myself, just like the blinders on the first half of 2007, I had no idea that the state organization, that you could be so involved. And so then I started serving on the state organization and was lucky enough to be on the finance committee and to chair a couple of committees for the state organization. And just, again, it expands your referral base. To add to that, it expands your knowledge in the marketplace. And just like you said, you can call anybody. Well, if you have all these friends locally, but how cool it is to call somebody on a national level or on a state level. And when I was deciding whether to broker an office, I made several calls to people to feel them out and see, what did they think of that idea. So you just have this huge base if you get involved. And I think that's the key. You touched on that a little bit in our previous conversation about members and the attrition. I think part of our attrition is just, it happens in our organization, once, especially in a leadership cultivating, as we talked about, organization, you're going to get so far with that member. And now, as past presidents, we stay involved, but a lot of times it just doesn't fit anymore for them. And I think we have to accept that. Yeah. And that it's part of our organization's process. We bring them up, we raise them up, and then it's just like kids. We got to kind of let them go and hope that they stay involved. But if they don't, I don't think we can get all really upset about it. We just need to hope that they bring in the next fold. It's, I know I could go on a list forever, but I'd forget someone. people that I tapped on the shoulder that moved into leadership, and I'm so proud of them all. Yeah.
That's there's so many things that you just said in your response that made me think of after I did my local leadership academy at my realtor association, one of the staffers came up to me who absolutely, when you just have that staff that's just so invested in your journey, like they love you so much and it's like a mutual thing. So they look out for you and stuff. And she told me, she said, you need to get involved at the state association. And she meant at the time Florida Realtors, but we could easily segue this into Women's Council. It's
Yes.
that same mindset, but even on a national scale. So to think about, even my last two referrals have come from two chance encounters at national meetings. And I always say to people like, like when you travel as a group together, you kind of have that tendency to want to sit together because you don't know anyone else in the room. But that's the worst thing you could do for yourself. It's a disservice because, reach out, meet these people, have quirky jokes. I mean, I'm a quirky joke giver, and people know it. So, it starts with these little things and you just start building those connections. And I equally feel the same way. And I'm going to take it back to Women's Council 360 last year. Some of these women, like I was in the trenches with, and, we just bonded over like something so silly. And, we talk about it this year and we're like, we knew we loved each other because of this. We both laughed at this same stupid joke and had that same mindset or same mentality. And now here we are, and you continue to watch each other in the journey and you see where people are going. And some people, like you said, have continued their journey, but life changes. And we have to accept that. So I do agree with you too, that you can only take people so far, but life does change. And at some point, you never know when it can change again and they could come
Yeah.
back or tap someone else. And like you said, keep that going. And that's
Yeah.
part of the journey.
Yes, absolutely.
So that was a great answer. And like so many things that popped in my own mind of thinking of like, I relate to what you're saying, like 10,000, 10,000 fold in a sense, because there's so many stories that you could tell, or we could share about, these different experiences.
Hmm. Hmm. And to push yourself a little bit, when you're going out, when you're at an event, convention, or otherwise, or somewhere where you're exposed to members from elsewhere, uh, think of different questions instead of I'm Rosemary, where are you from?
Right.
How did you get involved in the organization? Are you, I see you here at Women's Council, are you also involved in your state organization? So trying to pull out their passion because they'll talk about it.
Yeah.
And then you can get into conversation and find out what your common ground is. And like you said, make great connections.
So, so true. So could you discuss any advocacy campaigns that maybe you spearheaded during your presidency in Florida, and what was the goal and what was it achieved?
Um, Really, given the time, if you're talking about advocacy as far as the Political Action Committee, we did not touch on that as much. As a matter of fact, it was somewhere in there. I'm not sure which year it was, um, because it was not talked about that much at that
Mm,
time, being involved in advocacy. And I was curious because a lot of my good friends in the council, all over the country, would talk about, going to their legislature and, being involved in all this. And I was just curious. So, unbeknownst to my local association, because I was not that involved with them at the time, and not asking anybody, I saw the ad for Great American Realtor Days and I signed up and I booked a hotel and I went because I was curious and I wanted to find out what was going on. And obviously then I was hooked. I'm Crystal R. I am, this is third year RPAC chair, not these last two consecutive, many years ago I did it too. But I love that that's brought into the spotlight for Women's Council members to be involved, to be investors. But I would say that year we were so focused on what was happening in the market. And that it was an interesting year. 08 and 09 were a little bit rough, but that's why I said we tried to make it fun, make it worthwhile for our members to be there, and give them the tools they needed to navigate that. So yeah, advocacy was not on the top of the list at the time.
Yeah, I could totally see that. So what key lessons do you think that current members in Florida can learn from both your successes and the setbacks that you've experienced?
Well, always just be ready to take a deep breath and play the glad game. I guess, look at the silver lining, sit back, say, okay, so this happened, but, what could be the silver lining of that situation? There's always one there. And, I always say that God has a plan for us. Sometimes we don't understand it until many years later, but he does have a plan. And that it have to kind of sit back, take a deep breath. I know in the organization, sometimes there's disappointment. I know there's struggles for our local leadership when they don't get enough members to a meeting or otherwise. Again, it's an opportunity to sit back, take a look at it. Don't blame, just pull yourself up and figure out how you're going to navigate through that, how you could change it, how you could make it better. So I think that's basically where I would go with that.
Yeah, I love that. So how would your early experiences at the local level within Florida shape your approach to statewide campaigns? Or even skills?
So like I said, I went to my first meeting because someone asked me to come help decorate, because I was involved in March of Dimes and CARE and many organizations where my favorite thing was to help decorate for the big events that they had, or come up with the theme. And I'm a very theme-driven person. So that was all I had in mind. And 2 years later, I was asked to be president-elect. So it was very interesting. But there again, I had wonderful mentors in Vicki McPhee, Janine Gonzalez, Sue Ann Meyer. Those were all local people, but they really pulled me along. We all roomed together, and they showed me the ropes. So I think for our local, that's a key. It's the same thing. It's the same story. Tap someone on the shoulder, but don't just tap them and let go. You've got to encourage. And, if you see them in a hallway and they look like they're kind of out of place, take them by the hand, bring them to the next meeting, or, kind of go over their schedule with them at a state event, or any kind of regional event or anything, because it takes that, unless they're an extremely brave person and not shy, like myself originally. You need that. You need somebody to take you along and show you the ropes. And so I think that was done for me on the local level, for sure. Given a little more responsibility each time. Now, of course, it was only 2 years till I was serving on the line, but just adding the responsibility, asking somebody, could you do this for us? And the reward that they get out of that's what keeps a member involved.
Love it. Love it. So as we kind of come to a close, or a time it went super fast, any sage words of wisdom, if I knew then what I know now type of moments would you love to share with members?
Well, as always, don't sweat the small stuff. You're going to have on a local level, as a network, as a member, you may have a meeting that doesn't go well. So for the leadership, It's okay. Take that time, take the deep breath, figure out why. For the member, don't judge by that one instance. There's a much bigger picture to look at. And I think for the member, I highly encourage everyone, go to a state convention or go to any kind of other event. Reach out in your local area, 30, 40 miles away, and go to a network meeting. Another opportunity to network and get referrals, but also to see a different picture,
Okay.
to see the bigger picture of the council.
I love it. So, so true. Well, Madam Past President Rosemary Mahoney, this has been an absolute pleasure to get to know you better. And we've never, like I've shared before, we never actually met in person, but that's the whole point of these is so now you'll be a familiar face. And when I see you in the Florida Realtor halls, it'll be such an exciting greeting. But I can't thank you enough for your time today.
And I so appreciate this.
Thank you.